This is LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers.
He's Odell Beckham. He's Jamar Chase. He's Jalen Waddle. He's just a nightmare to defend because he's that explosive. And sometimes it is that easy. 4.35 speed, 42-inch vertical. Those are both 95th percentile. According to PFF, his tracking numbers from inside the game, 99th percentile game speed. When I watched him, it took me about 4 routes to realize that we're dealing with a very rare prospect. I would say he's worthy of a top 5 overall selection. And I would understand why some teams would prefer him over Marvin Harrison Jr. They just win in totally different ways.
6 foot, 199 pounds. And as you said, in one word, explosive. I mean, when I watch him, it looks like he is always running downhill. Like whatever side of the field he's running his route on, there's just a slanted slope downhill because of just the ability that he has to chew up ground or just be faster than his opponents. Just quickly, some stats that matter. You know the raw ones. This past season, 89 receptions, over 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. But digging beneath the surface, he broke a tackle once every 3 receptions, which is scary considering his average depth of target, just how far he was when the pass got to him, was 12 yards down the field. He had the 4th most missed tackles force in this draft class, but none of the others above him had an ADOT beyond 8 yards. 2nd most first downs gained on receptions, only behind the great Rome Odunze in this class as well.
He's a total freak just because the slant routes, in-breaking routes, if he has one step, he can take it the entire distance. Yeah, it was the highest rate of missed tackles per catch, and the other guys, like you said, are the little screen guys. He absolutely is not just that. He's also 20 years old, so I think we're going to see even more development from him. He was fantastic in the fade and go route game as well. He's a very versatile player. Lined up inside on 54% of the snaps, outside on 46% of them. When he was at the NFL Combine fielding questions, he said that what he wants from a team, where he wants to go, is a team that's going to move him around the formation. I think it's because he had a lot of room to operate in this LSU spread offense, both down the field and underneath, from inside and from outside. So he's going to be able to fit every single offense. He's going to be able to win from the inside and the outside. And really, his entire game mostly is this just pure athleticism.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine with me. I don't really care if there's other players that have more route running prowess at this point of his game, just because he is only 20 years old.
41% of his plays over the last 2 seasons went for 15 plus yards. I mean, that's bananas stuff. And let's really dig into maybe some of the nuances of his game that we absolutely love. He obviously, when facing a cushion or off coverage, it must be terrifying to be a cornerback because one, just how quickly he chews up ground in front of you. And then he can break in 4 different directions just so quickly. And then in his first couple steps after that, he's back up to full speed. I mean, I think that what we also saw against like 2022, I think it was Florida and Tennessee, where they did try, Auburn as well, they tried to like get in his grill and cover him. There was one rep against the Tennessee Vols on 3rd and 10. He's isolated to one side of the field. The corner has inside leverage. And by his 4th step, he takes that jab to the outside. It forces the corner to lose his positioning advantage. Again, on 3rd and 10, he perfectly runs his in-breaking route 11 yards down the field, catches it, and falls forward for another 4. So while, yes, he consistently did get away with pure athleticism on the hitches and the goes and the straight line vertical routes that LSU did deploy him on, I did see a lot of good route running nuance and detail to his game that you might not see of other freakazoid athletes out there.
Completely agree. Could change with tempo. Elite body control. That's at the catch point. That's up in the air after he catches the pass. One of the reasons why he's avoiding all these tackles is not just the speed. He can actually absorb a hit from a defender out in space and keep on going. So that body control really helps him out. I'm with you on these hitch routes where you'd have some off coverage. He would stop on a dime and absolutely burst up field before you even know it. So I do think that he will develop a complete, diverse route tree. The one time, if we're going to nitpick with anything, I do think that there's sometimes at his releases where he could get bodied up a little bit because he is 6 foot 199, but that's not going to be an issue, especially if he's being moved across the formation, especially as he develops even better tools in his toolbox. So yeah, I watched him and immediately you just get Odell Beckham vibes. You get Jamar Chase vibes, not just the LSU jersey. Basically the same exact height, weight, speed, vertical ability, obviously at LSU, the production, the how young he is, all of this stuff is completely elite. 99th percentile when I put him in my prospect model. His age adjusted production, 97th percentile. He's doing that against the best competition there is. So this is a layup, and it really just your preference. Do you want the size and Marvin Harrison Jr., or do you just want the freakazoid athlete? And I think that's just going to be a team by team basis.
Yeah. By the way, we'll have a Marvin Harrison Jr. video and profile on this channel. So hit that subscribe button, because actually their explosive plays over the last 2 seasons are very similar in terms of 15+ yard gains. However, how they produce them, very, very different. Again, just want to dive into some more maybe numbers here. Our buddy Brett Coleman had a great one. 60% of Malik Nabers' yards this past season and 10 of his 14 touchdowns were from the slot. Okay. Like we've talked about it. He can be an outside and he can be an inside guy, and that can really help. In 2 and 3 wide receiver sets, he's going to be on the field at all times, obviously in the NFL. But nearly 30% of his total yards and 9 of 14 touchdowns were on slot fades purely. And if you dig even more, 58 of his 109 targets in 2023 were either hitches or goes. So he kind of did work on that straight line plane and either stopped or worked vertically. And again, as we talked about in the Jaden Daniels video, there wasn't a ton of middle of the field work in that offense. You can weigh it for a whole bunch of reasons, but I do feel like when we get more middle of the field work from Malik Nabers in the NFL, you're actually going to see even more yards after catch opportunities and more of this physicalness after the catch, and how he also rarely loses momentum when catching the football and then turns up the field to create these explosive gains. You can see those numbers go up once he gets into the league.
Yeah, remember like rookie year Jamar Chase, he was winning down the field repeatedly. That's kind of how Malik Nabers looked on tape. But then if you look at Odell Beckham, when he was in the pros, he would just take those slant routes, those crossing routes, those over routes, and absolutely just cook people all the way down the field yards after the catch. Why? So I'm completely with you. Was there any like type of negatives you saw with Malik Nabers? I mean, we're completely nitpicking here. Obviously, we both love this guy, but there's also 2 other receivers that are going to go top 10 as well.
I definitely saw highlight reel, leave the ground, go up and get it, tight coverage, contested catch moments. But I also ask myself, can he be one of the best in the league in contested catch situations?
Right.
No, he's not going to be. But still, like, that's totally fine. Some of that is his frame, you know, some of that is just his height, his length, all of it. And that's probably my only thing, because the rest can be among the top 10 in the league in terms of his 1 to 2 step acceleration and maybe yards after catch capabilities too.
Yeah, I saw the same exact thing there, but this is a perfect time for him to come into the NFL with all of the motion that we're seeing, with all the inside outside versatility. This is a perfect, like all this like schemed up touches. We didn't really see that in this offense. He can get all of those free completions and yards after the catch stuff at the NFL. And that's what made this, like his production profile so crazy to me, is like none of this was fake. I mean, we were tough routes. Like trying to win on a slot fade down the field is not an easy thing to pull off. And same thing with these little hitch routes, to be able to stop on a dime turn and still get all those yards after the catch stuff. Really impressive stuff. So I think that we'll see even freer completions to Malik Nabers. So yeah, I think he's going to go out there as a rookie and just put on an absolute show. Like I know on Underdog, best ball, he's like already a 3rd round pick. I think that's totally justified depending on the landing spot. I think that he is like as pro ready as they get.
As you said, just 14 screen catches this past season. And that even makes his missed tackles force numbers look even better on top of it. Yeah, when I was watching this, I was just thinking, and obviously he's not going to the Miami Dolphins, but what if Mike McDaniel had this dude in terms of his speed motions and his fly motions, right? Because we've talked about how he can create separation on his own and the acceleration on top of that if you can't get a hand on him. Well, now in the league, again, with these full speed motions at the snap, they can create natural space and natural separation for him. So when I look at and project him, he can definitely be like your primary stationary wide receiver if you want him to, but on the best team and in his best role, he would probably be that flanker movement, sometimes in the slot dude, again, that you can create this natural leverage and separation for. And with that cushion, that's going to be dangerous, again, for whatever cornerback is going to have to face him, and really figure out what to do with him 5 yards down the field when you can't even contact him after that.
I mean, if you're backpedaling and he's coming off that cheat motion, I would just backpedal straight to the sideline, because he's already going to be in the end. So there's no point.
I have an interesting comparison for you. I liked all the ones that you brought up.
Okay.
He's kind of like a jetpack Ayuk to me a little bit.
Okay.
The same exact size in terms of 6 foot, 200-ish pounds. Ayuk did run a 4.5 40 at his NFL combine, but he had to have core muscle surgery after
He plays
that.
faster than that
Right.
for sure.
I also think Ayuk, if the difference is here, is Ayuk is better contested. I think he has the wingspan of a much larger wide receiver,
Yes.
right? And I also think that Brandon Ayuk is maybe one of the more underrated yards after catch players in the league too. I mean, just go back to his second season. He was 10th in the league in yards after catch per reception. And that was also with an ADOT 10 plus yards down the field. And then the other aspect is they both caught passes from Jaden Daniels in college.
That is true, which is maybe a concern for Jaden though. So make sure you go watch that video. And as a reminder, guys, he's 20 years old on draft night.
Right.
20. He's one of the youngest players in the entire draft. So all these freaky numbers that we're talking about, any negative that we can possibly think of, it's all going to be fixed very, very, very shortly. So was one of my favorite players to watch over like the last 5 years for me.
Yeah. All right. That does it. Go and watch the other draft prospects that we have on the channel. Check out other mock drafts as well. And we will check you all on the next video.